Welcome to Pachamama Sacred Paths podcast. This podcast was created with the purpose of informing and sharing ancient ancestral wisdom relating to shamanism and sacred plant medicines, as well as other modalities of spirituality. Our mission is to share a safe and reverent understanding for anyone who is interested in healing and growing through shamanism, sacred plant medicines, Hinduism, and silence. If you would like to experience firsthand the pragmatic transformation that shamanism has to offer, please visit our retreats page, pachamamasacredpaths.org, at estimo.org, or you can click on the link appearing on the screen or go to the comment section below.
Hello everyone, welcome. Thank you for joining us in this episode. This is Pachamama Sacred Paths podcast. My name is Andres Villa.
And I'm Sabrina.
And we want to welcome you to this beautiful, really amazing continuation of this sacred medicine series in which we will be talking about Mother Ayahuasca. And today I have the pleasure of hosting, and we have a very special friend of ours. She's our guest today. Her name is Araceli. Hi, Ara.
Hi, guys. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And so today we're going to be talking a little bit about a few things. We're going to be talking about the different kind of brews that ayahuasca is, a little bit of the experience, and also what I'm particularly interested in is what are some of the spiritual benefits, emotional, mental, spiritual benefits of Mother Ayahuasca, right? And but before any of that, and we're gonna grill the hell out of you today, Ara. So we want to begin first and foremost. I don't know if you're okay with sharing a little bit of your story. How is it that you became so familiar, and what drew you to the medicines, and what has been your path?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's very interesting, and it started a little bit over 2 years ago when I was looking for alternative ways to heal my depression. And I was going through a very, very dark time, and a friend of mine introduced me to a place in Costa Rica.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided to go there and try it out. I really didn't know very much about it. I just know that they served different types of medicines.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went there, and in this place they served 4 days in a row, and each day it was different medicine. And what was interesting is
every day?
Yeah, it was ayahuasca. One night it was Santo Daime. Another night was one from Peru. Another one was one that was brewed by a shaman there. And then the last night was Yahe, which is a brew from Colombia.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when, as the nights progressed, it was just so incredible. The way I went in there with absolutely no expectations and just completely just surrendering to whatever was going to be my experience. And what was really interesting with the medicine, it basically guided me, and it told me what my life was going to be up to kind of around this point where I'm at right now. And everything that the medicine told me was going to happen happened. And I couldn't believe it at the time, even meeting you, it's like you're going to have a teacher, and then, and then after that, you're going to have this other teacher, but don't look for them. It's just going to happen. And I thought I was going crazy, it's like, this is nuts. Like this is, now I look back, and it's absolutely incredible.
I gotta say, just a quick parenthesis. It's I've always been like fascinated and quite impressed on your how you tune in and you receive like this like crystal clear messages. I remember you sometimes sharing, it's like I saw this and I received this message, and I'm like, that's really freaking specific. Either you're going crazy or you got something special, and here you are, like leading the way now.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you so we worked together for a little while, and then you felt the call to go to where are you now?
Well, it wasn't, it was Colombia. It's, and what was interesting is the medicine told me. The medicine said that I would be going home and that I would be going to Colombia, and I didn't understand that. And
Mm-hmm.
when I drank medicine with Taita Juanito, which is who I'm studying with right now, the medicine told me he would be my teacher. So I spoke to him, and I said, um, this is what the medicine is telling me. I'm not sure if I'm going crazy or if it's true, or I'm sure you hear this all the time.
You probably
And
laughed.
he just said, let me study it. He says, let's drink tonight and I'll let you know. And then he said he had a vision about me, and that he wanted me to go to Colombia. And I literally, like a week later, he called me. He says, okay, come to Colombia. And I packed my bags, and I've been there since January. And I come back for a couple months because he does retreats here. But it just, that's what the medicine said was going to happen, and that I would go study with him, and that's what I've been doing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you were sharing with us a little while ago that it's likely that that's going to be your path for some time to follow, right?
Yes, and I don't know, like it's like Taita says, being in this path doesn't mean you're going to be a shaman or a healer. There's so many ways where we can be in the medicine and help out in so many different ways. For me, what I want, is to be able to help people get through their healing, and if it's for me to help out
Yeah.
in ceremonies and ways where, even if it's just, right now I'm learning to become a healer, but I'm also helping to coordinate
Right.
the ceremonies.
Yep.
Yeah, the work comes in so many different ways. There's not one small job or one big job. Every job is important. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And so, do you mind if we start with a few questions? We can
Of
have
course.
a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
What would you like to ask, Serena?
So, Araceli, it sounds like you've had quite the rounds with the different ayahuasca journeys. What would you say is probably the key difference? Maybe you can talk about a couple of brews and what the key differences were that you noticed, both in the preparation and then maybe in the experience itself. I'm sorry, that's like probably a little bit direct to the point, but that's where I'm dying to know, like all of all of this exposure. What does that look like in the different cultures within the tradition, and then the different experiences you've had with it?
Yes, it's interesting because there are different names for different brews. There's one is called Ayahuasca Cielo, Ayahuasca Tigre. There's the Yahe.
Black Vine, Black Negra.
Yeah, there's so many, but really, what I've noticed the difference, honestly, is the prayer and the intention that every ayahuasquero puts in the medicine. It really is, how they pray into the medicine, where they're brewing it, how they're brewing it, where,
The consecration.
where in the jungle. Yeah, there's so many variables, and it shows when you drink it. Mm-hmm.
Which one?
How does that come through? How does that come through when you drink it?
It comes through in your experience. For example, some brews, they're more purgative, where you vomit and you go diarrhea. And for example, like at least with Taita Juanito's brew, like his brew is more when you vomit, and you could you could sit there and barely drink any water and you will fill a whole bucket. And what he says is, when you're vomiting, is you're releasing is more emotional things, and when you're going to the bathroom is more physical. So if you're dealing with physical issues, you're going to go more to the bathroom with his brew. Mm-hmm. And then there's other people's medicine where, there's this one older man that does his medicine, and I swear I'm sitting there and I'm being scolded the whole night about, I did this wrong. I should have done that instead. I should have not said this, because it's more like a grandfather. It's more, more serious.
Yeah, more
and
direct.
Exactly. And there's some other brews that I've had where it's very direct. It's where I've had a very direct conversation with the medicine, where I sit and it's teaching me and it's telling me how to let go of something, what to do next. And so it really just depends on the person and their intention for the medicine, or even who they are as a person. It shows up on the medicine.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which one is your personal favorite? Is it yahe?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, it's hard because is I love it because of how deep I
How
go,
profound. Right, right.
but it's very physically, it's really hard. It's
Overwhelming.
very hard.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I
it,
heard
it
that they prepare some participants sometimes, and they like make them wear diapers.
yes, no, I mean, yeah, because people have
Yeah,
accidents. The,
yeah,
the
yeah,
thing
yeah,
is,
yeah, yeah.
you
Yeah.
can go so deep into the medicine
Yes,
that you can't even get up to go to the bathroom. Yeah.
you really do go beyond.
Sorry.
You go beyond the body quite a bit.
Oh yes, absolutely. Like yes, and and that's the thing, that the more you study with it, at least the Taita says, what the medicine is trying to teach you is to become stronger.
Of
To
course.
be able to. Nobody can handle the medicine. I mean, there's no such thing. It's like, oh, there'll come a point where you'll be able to handle the medicine. No, you have your experience, but you're able to, because for me, at least with Yahe, the deepest work you do is the drunker you are in the
Mhm.
medicine. That's where you do the deepest work. And
That's right.
the Taita says, if you drink 4 cups, which is almost impossible to do with Yahe, but let's say you do drink 4 cups,
Mm-hmm.
you go so deep that he says that is where you actually find who you are.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
but in order to get to that point, you have to get through so much. You have to let go of so much to be able to face that, to be able to handle. And for me, is then I have to help throughout the ceremony, and I'm barely able to walk, but you have to do it. But that's where the teaching comes. That's where you learn to be able to manage the energy, because really that's where it becomes more about energy.
Mhm.
Because it's like Taita says, in order to be a facilitator, to help, your energy has to be above everyone else's. So you
Mhm.
have to be drunker than everyone else.
Mhm.
But at the same time, you have to be able to function better than everyone else.
Correct.
So that's where
Correct.
the work is. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. You were mentioning that it was like 6 months. You're doing like about 30 ceremonies so far in these past 6 months.
I've done probably about 60.
60 in
Hmm.
6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, 10 per month. Okay. Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a little work.
I know. People said, that I lost a lot of weight. It's like, yes, that's the best diet you could do is
Yeah, yeah.
Yahe.
No, yeah, it's remarkable. The
Yeah.
medicines I can observe the medicine in you. That's beautiful.
Hmm.
Really nice. Yeah.
So between the two of you, what would you say are some of the, we do screenings for people coming to ayahuasca retreats. We've heard screenings and talk to people. What would you tell, like, the general, as we're talking to the, this is public podcast, shared podcast, what would you say the purpose of consuming ayahuasca is? Why would anybody even bother to take this medicine?
You want
Why,
you
why don't
want to
you
go ahead?
why don't you take that, and then I'll give my ladies first.
um, I would say, I don't know. I mean, I think anyone that wants to get to know who they truly are. Anyone that wants to heal anything, anyone that wants to let go of something, a trauma or fears, or you know anyone that wants to let go of
Hmm.
the stories that they've been told.
Yeah.
And has it been a magic pill for you, or like how have you seen it work for you? That
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, if it wasn't for the medicine, I could honestly say I wouldn't be here. Yeah.
What do you mean with that?
Because I was suicidal.
There you.
There's absolutely no, like, I was done.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's, yeah, absolutely you know
It has been
it's
a
been a lot of
game
work. It's been hard work. It's not easy, to work on yourself, but it's been, I've done it all. I've done therapists, I've done psychiatrists, I've done all the pills you can think of. And this, for me, not only has it helped me, it's helped the people around me.
changer.
And now I can say that I'm able to help other people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I resonate. I
yeah.
resonate a lot with that. I think the medicine is a lot of people are curious, to see is like what else is there, right, other than this physicality, and so you get a lot of people in the retreats. However, in the retreats that we do, because of the intention being healing, immediately the people who are just like trying to explore just for the sake of like the psychedelia, they actually kind of screen themselves out. There's not so much an openness to just like come in and party, right? That's really not the focus. But when people do come, it's usually because exactly that, like people are having you know definitely some emotional turmoil, some trouble. There's consistently that, whether it is like so intense and so confusing that it can lead to suicidal thoughts. And but also like medical help, medical issues. The depression is probably the number one cause of people reaching out. And then also just feeling stuck in life, which is then leading to frustration that develops into a depression, right? But the first thing is like people start looking at the consequences of the blockages in their life, the energetic blockages that they manifest in problems with relationships, problems with finances, problems with all sorts of different areas of our lives, right? And then when it gets overwhelming enough, they're like, okay, let me ask for help. What can I do? And then they start asking the right questions, and here or there they listen to the word ayahuasca or sacred medicines, right? And then that's when they open up themselves. But yeah, what we see, I really and I know what you mean when you say like it's like magic pill. It is hard work, so it's not like a one shot. For me at least, it wasn't, and I'm pretty sure you can agree that it's work. It's like a commitment, and that people do have to go through. And the first time, second time, third time is usually more like a reassurance that there's a way out. And then, but it's not the medicine in itself is not so much that it's the way out. The medicine just shows us, which is the way, and then we have to walk it step by step. And we usually say in the retreats, like the work begins right after the medicine's done, because it's time to face with the whole thing. But however, like for example, for you that you're doing so much medicine, you are integrating, and then you reflect, and then you go in deeper, and then you go in deeper, and so you're consistently meeting yourself and meeting all of those things. And so what starts to happen, and correct me if I'm wrong, you start integrating as you meet the medicine.
Yes.
Like something that happens in we do probably like about 2 times less than you, as far as medicine goes. Maybe well, but we do also different medicines, right? Like San Pedro, peyote, and, sapito. And so the it's a little bit of a different path than being just with mother. Like I assume you are, right. You guys are not
Yes.
training. So it is just a little bit different, but still this is something that we can appreciate in between retreats. Is like there is a change that starts to take place just because we're so much in communion consistently. And this is probably something that you can observe too, right, Sabrina? Like how much it's in between retreats that like it's like a whole month changes, a whole month passes. It's like life, like a whole shift in paradigms of what is possible, what is not possible. Like how clean you would feel energetically, the whole thing. I think that it is a commitment to the medicine that yields to some expedited transformation. But this is obviously my personal experience, right?
I would agree. I mean, the by the time, I guess the probably about a week and a half after ceremony, I feel like I'm just kind of getting my bearings from the last ceremony. Probably about a week and a half, and understand a little bit more about what I learned in the last ceremony. And then there's if there's additional integration that needs to happen, that continues. But the big bubble of integration is usually about a week and a half for me.
How is it for you nowadays that you're having 10 ceremonies a month? Ara.
No, it's been the it's funny because I used to think that the teachings would come during medicine, and they do, but I feel like in medicine I'm really more becoming stronger, and even being able to deal with people. But really the teachings come with everyday situations, and how I deal with people, and how I deal with emotions that come up, because what I'm starting to become so much more sensitive
Yep.
about my triggers and why they're there. And when and then I also you become, as more almost intuitive.
Yeah.
And somebody doesn't have to tell you what they're going through. You already know.
You
You're
feel it
walking down the
now away.
street. And so just learning how to deal with those things, and just everyday situations. To me, that's where the school is. How I react to things, and how I choose to answer something, or how I choose to put myself in a certain situation or not. To me, that's been like the biggest takeaway from the medicine. How I've grown,
Right.
spiritually and emotionally. That has been the biggest.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really do enjoy that part, and I think that's kind of like the foundation, the basis of what you said of you becoming the healer, like learning to be a healer, is through your own knowing of yourself. As you connect to how you feel, then you open that doorway to also know how other people feel, rather than conceptualizing or judging or whatever, right? Like through seeing through filters, you're seeing through energy, you're seeing through the emotion of what is actually happening in the moment. So it's like feeling, pure feeling. You develop the feeling, and then you're able to really heal. You're not heal others, but facilitate, help them through their healing, right? Not that we do a job where like you help them go through their process.
Yes, and I think, and you're right. For me, realizing how much I judged others was such a, like, I couldn't believe it. How much time and energy I spent, judging what other people were doing or saying, or the way they looked, and and then doing that to myself as well.
Yeah.
And letting that go. And I still, I'm still working on it. I catch myself. It's like, oh, okay, I'm judging that person, and who am I? And what can I do instead? And that one was a hard lesson.
One of the things that I like from the Quero is how they say, like, there's two types of judgment. There's one that is kind of like the sort of like a constructive criticism that is more like a discernment of what is in alignment and what is not. And then there's the judgment that is a negative, which becomes condemnation. And that's the one I think you're talking about, right? Like,
yes, absolutely. Yes.
It's a yeah, I feel that both get really, really, and this is like I feel personally, that's why it's so important that you're in a lineage, like you are with the lineage with your teacher right now, with Taita, and for us is the Quero, that gives us these discernments, or these understanding of how everything is neutral except for the use that we give it, right? It either benefits or it can affect negatively, and so that discernment sometimes, because the medicine does I don't know if you remember, a few years ago we were in a ceremony with someone that had taken over 300 ceremonies, and they're like super evolved, their psyche is like they're super intuitive and they can see everything. But so as much as everything, all of that skill develops, and their ability to sense, their ability to connect to others, they really don't give it a proper use. They don't understand that there's a beneficial and the opposite of it, as far as ways we could use our energy and our focus. And it is important, I think, that the lineage, having a spiritual practice around using the medicine, so that it doesn't. One of the things that I don't know if you guys know, Ken Wilber. He's he's a scholar that, sort of like a guru, but more like in the scholar sense. And I think he's an anthropologist. I can't remember, but one of the things he said is like one of the observations. He's done medicine quite a bit and whatnot, but one of the observations that he had was that people without spiritual practices, they can become a little bit of like assholes. And it's not a judgment. It's like the observation that would be neutral as a discernment of what is happening is they become a little mean,
Yes.
just maybe aggressive, maybe like discarding people, like not really disregarding people's emotions, or really not caring where they're stepping, things like this. And it becomes like in the tradition we call it atipakuy pachakutin, right? Like the just basically um, instead of like a unity oneness, it's more like a ego type of oneness, like
Correct.
just me, like something that is excluding everything else, instead of including everything else.
Yeah, and that's why Taita, talks about it's not the amount of times you drink. Is, he says that one person can drink 2-3 times and evolve so much more than someone that drinks 100 times.
Depending on
And he says it all depends on the work that you're doing,
uh-huh.
and he calls it the work that you're doing at home. He says, there's a lot of people that come here and they're all spiritual, and they come, they drink, and it's beautiful, but then they go home and they're hitting the wife or screaming at the kids.
Yeah.
He says,
Kick
how
the
are you
dog.
walking? Yeah, what are you, what practices are you following? Because he talks about the importance of having a practice, a prayer, meditation, even if it's just with nature, but having some type of practice where you're being, I don't know, accountable, and it's not just you, it's you and what else.
Yeah.
And I think, Andres, you've mentioned that too in some of the trainings that you offer outside, is getting too far along and isn't, the medicine isn't going to fix you. And if anything, it can, that sense of power can almost make things a little bit worse if there's not a spiritual foundation for the practice.
Yeah, and I think it bases that comes back to something that I think we touched briefly a few podcasts, a few sessions ago. That it's aini, right? It's like not being in right relationship, like not having a proper. When I say proper, it's not that there's a right or a wrong way, but even having some reverence, for the spirit of the medicine, right? Which is a a benevolence just from nature, basically, right? So it's natural. It's um, the whole thing with not being in right relationship is that what that means is that you're unbalanced. And when if you think about a friend that you're always calling to ask him for money, and just like eventually your friend's gonna be like, get the fuck out of my life. It's like, I really don't want. And that doesn't really happen with the medicines. Of course, they're always, because it's their nature to be of service, but it's what you're doing to yourself by not honoring the relationship. And so what ends up happening is, in that imbalance, we don't get to appreciate, and we don't get to grow, and we don't get to keep the glimpses and the teachings of the medicine, right? There is a it's the opposite of gratitude, what ends up happening sometimes. And so in that sense, what turns is what we're speaking about, like people turning a little mean, and it's not something conscious, you know. It's like not something that they're choosing to do. It's just something that they naturally gravitate to. The lack of lack of compassion, lack of things like this, right? Like a lack of values that are complementary to unity, and so that's in my experience, it has been Aini what makes it right, and it's just simple rituals of reverence and devotion and understanding how much of a blessing these medicines are. That's my take on that. But how do you experience that, Araceli, as far as when people take and take and take?
Yes, Taita talks about the same thing. He talks about spiritual payments, and talks about that just like the keto, where when you take and you don't give back,
Yeah,
you're in debt with life. And
spiritual
he says,
payment.
at the end of the day, you're gonna get a receipt.
Yes.
And and it's even as simple as how you take care of yourself. And he said, if you don't take care of yourself, there's gonna come a point. He says everything we have is borrowed, and life is going to give you a receipt, and then you're going to be looking for that healer when you're 60, 70 years. I want to solve all these issues. It's like,
Yeah.
yes, but you haven't done the work all this
Right. Right.
time.
And it's
Yes. So
something that even with people that don't take medicine, it's something that happens. It's just for everyone, really. It's the medicine or no medicine. This is just something that happens. I think I've shared with you, Sabrina, and my Brenda, my partner. Her mom was always giving, 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 and she wouldn't take care of herself, and that was such a big imbalance that ended up, having a lot of like physical consequences, and it was like from a matter of like a week, just like everything manifested, and she was forced to leave the body, right, and but anyways, it is that not like not really paying attention to ourselves and just being it's the same thing, right? And so then when we're focused on the other way, which is only inward, just like taking, 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 it's the same thing. We're not giving. So both aspects, right? The giving and then the receiving. The giving and the receiving have to be in balance.
From a spiritual perspective, just kind of where we're talking in that spirituality, you mentioned balance and Aini and right relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder if we might maybe dive a little bit more into that balance and how the medicine might kind of demonstrate some imbalance in your spiritual world. At least as far as you guys have seen. Maybe, I don't know if you want to get specific, but the reason I ask is for a lot of people who are looking at ayahuasca, it's not, they're not necessarily coming in trying to be spiritual. They're coming in trying to feel better, and maybe have a rough time translating how feeling better might have anything to do with spirituality. So I'm wondering if we can maybe bridge that gap a little bit, just to talk about feeling better and
Yeah.
how spirituality plays a role in that.
Yeah. What have you experienced with that, Ara?
Well, it was interesting with me because I grew up I grew up Catholic. I went to Catholic school, but I sort of walked away from it just because there was something missing. I understood who God was. Like I got it in theory, but I didn't get it. And so I just felt like I kept going. Like nothing in my life seemed to go right, even though everything was fine. I didn't see it. Like it just, there was just something just that felt heavy.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what it was. I tried different things and tried different, changing jobs, changing careers, and and I was always trying to blame it on something. And when I started to drink medicine and really get to understand who God was, and which wasn't necessarily a religion per se. It was it was energy, and it was all of it, and it was in everything. It was in me, and it was everything that I did. And then I realized that the more negative thoughts, I mean, everything played a role in that imbalance that you're talking about. And the imbalance was my diet, the conversations that I had, what I watched, the people that I hung out with, my thoughts. Everything was negative. Everything was chaotic. Everything was, and when I started to go more into nature and who God was, and getting rid of the things that didn't serve me anymore. Like, I mean, I watched the news for like 3 hours. Now I don't watch it. I don't, because it was, it was just that chaos that,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
somehow it kept me from dealing with my own stuff,
Yeah.
to deal with other, And so when I started to then look at myself and look at the things that I could do, and then that's when I started to kind of go back into that balance, and then really connecting with God and myself, and the God within myself, and that's really where everything sort of changed for me. And I can tell, like, where when it starts to become unbalanced again, because you can, you start eating pork again, and you start, like, oh, I'll watch this show, and then I'll be on Facebook again, and then you start feeling heavy, and headaches, and then I realize, okay, I gotta go back to
Or seeing it
meditating.
manifested outward, like there's like a little bit of like maybe lack of flow here, lack of flow there, a little bit of conflict, like different points. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
right, right.
Mhm.
Yeah, for me, I think that one of the things that I've noticed a lot is the source of the imbalance has been a lot of it is cultural, the social, right, social standards. Because as courteous as we're taught to be, and what you do this and you don't, and like the shoulds and shouldn'ts, must and mustn'ts, can's and can, all of those are basically just impositions that are from outside of us to ourselves. And then so we don't really ever get taught to understand the balance from a perspective of experiencing like the what it means to be balanced. It's just like, okay, you do this because of that, and so it becomes a concept. It's not really like a, okay, then you're gonna feel how it feels to give back to Mother Earth, or how it feels to when you receive a gift, you know, make something to reciprocate. And just like little thing, I'm thinking of my kids, right? When they receive gifts or something, is we kind of encourage them to make drawings, and what do you call it, the popsicle sticks type of like frames for people, things like that, right? Whatever it is. And so it is something that unfortunately, a lot of us, we don't get taught when we're little. We're taught to pray. We're taught to like um, kind of like just look for the man in the sky that's gonna make everything all right, kind of thing, right? Not really to, like you say, like start to experience the self worth within, to be able to connect to that from within, you know. And so in that sense, because we're always looking at the outside from the conceptual, we don't really get to experience in the first place, like in the first person aspect, what does it mean, how does it feel to be in balance, and how to recognize when we're not in balance, right? And so it's the aspect of the I who a lot of the times is in need. And need of what? Need of a mom, need of a dad, need of certainty, because maybe the father figure wasn't there, maybe different things, right? And so it is the ego looking for those needs on the outside, based on the shoulds, shouldn'ts, can't, must not, all of that stuff, so that it feels safe, which is all the ego is looking for, to feel safe and feel protected and feel pleasure, of course, right? But and because it doesn't have that formation, that foundation of balance, where it has learned, the ego has expanded in a healthy way. We don't have a healthy ego sometimes to know which actions, in which ways it can feel safe by just experiencing the balance. Then it demands from the external, demands the balance from the external in different ways. And so it is For me, the way that the medicine has shown us to get balance is it shows us all of that has been unbalanced, and sometimes it's somatized energy. If we have learned that we need to be happy because by not maybe not stealing, because that's pretty dramatic, but by being a really mean asshole manager at a car dealership, then what happens is, like, all of that harshness, that roughness is going to be projected back to you. And I was that mean manager of a car dealership. So it comes back just projected really clearly. How does it feel, the energy that you carry? And so it shows you, and that's when people go into purging. They're like, "Oh," and then what is this? And little by little you start to question, what is it? Why am I reacting this? Is like, this, sometimes you probably have experienced quite a bit, people going into what it looks like an exorcism, but it's really just all of their harshness, all of their self-judgment, all of these things that it's coming out, right? And it's so the medicine to be brought back into balance, it just makes us aware of the patterns that we have, the infliction that we make upon ourselves and others, that is creating the imbalance. That's how I feel that the medicine puts you back into aini, into a right relationship with yourself.
Right. I think for me, I came into this path with no interest in finding divinity or exploring spirituality whatsoever. And it's interesting in that even so, I feel like I didn't violate that interest or expectation. It just became, something that I understood a little bit more about myself and about the world, that the ways that I was getting in the way, the ways that I was sabotaging my own manifestation, if you will, or my own life. Right.
Right.
And so, yeah, I don't know that I've met anyone, potentially, I guess some of the folks that I've engaged with have been atheists, but I've never seen anyone who was atheist suddenly turn, into a monk by engaging with something, any of these medicines.
Yeah.
But it is a profoundly spiritual experience that doesn't require you to go to church afterwards. So, yeah. I have one more very, again, specific and direct questions, mainly around the chemical composition. We talked a little bit about the brew. We didn't really talk about the chemical composition. What is it about ayahuasca that gives you the physiologically, what changes that gives you, or the interactions, right? The chemicals within the brew that gives you these profound thought processes that end up, moving you out of a depressed and suicidal state, or move you out of that, or to a better understanding of why you're there. What chemically, and I know what it is, I'm just asking the question for conversations, but the two chemicals are DMT and the MAOI, right? So no matter what combination it is, there's dimethyltryptamine and a monoxamine inhibitor. Oh my gosh, I totally butcher. I'm just gonna call it MAOI. So when you think, from what you guys know physiologically, do you know kind of what's going on with that medicine as we consume it, or as it's consumed, what's happening?
Do you like to take that?
You know what's interesting, in the lineage that I follow, we don't get into that. We get more into what's happening spiritually, because to them it's not what's happening scientifically. It's more about why the medicine was put here, and why we should use it, and why spiritually, what's going on spiritually. That I know more than like that scientific part.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For what I understand, and I honor that. I really, that's one of the things I like about Anya, is not really dismissing any of them, and I'm pretty sure they don't. They just value a lot that one, and they're curious with that one, with that one understanding. But just for the folks that are like a little bit more Western, and they're interested in understanding the mechanics of it, I believe what happens is the MAOI inhibits the production. The MAOI inhibits the production of the enzyme that is MAO, and so the one that you couldn't pronounce, which I'm not even going to attempt. So that one, then what happens is, because of that, the stopping of the production of that, then your pituitary, your pineal glands are stimulated, and so it is said that it is the third eye, which is the vision. That's where you get vision in your mind, right? It's like from here, and so in that vision, it is both outward and inner vision. And so when you're looking outward, you get like all of the fractals and the whole thing. When you're looking inward, which is what we usually recommend at the retreats, then you get to see very clearly yourself, and you get to know yourself. You start to have an experience of yourself, and in that experience, then you become aware of, because you're seeing beyond the form. Now you can see the structure of the energy that you carry. You can see the structure of your emotions, and a lot of the times, because your inner sight is so heightened, you're able to see the form and the shape of the energy. And this is when people start to see maybe, some like really dark faces and demon looking things and stuff like that. It's just their energy, what they're looking at, right? And people start getting super afraid and panicky and things like this. It's because they don't have a relationship with it, and it's everything feels like ominous, and everything is like a threatening type of experience, right? Like life is threatening. I should be afraid of life because there's a lot of crazes out there, and kill or be killed type of thinking. It's just a lot of that. Sometimes people come with, and they can have a hard time. But this is really not the focus of our retreats either. Just playing devil's advocate of what happened. This is in my understanding, that's how it takes place. It is a understanding, experientially, what is it that I am carrying in such a way, that's where people awaken to themselves. They have these sudden realizations.
Awesome. Yeah, I know that that's definitely not the focus, which is why it was kind of the last question. There's I think just general interest in what is this and how is it, physically, what is it doing now? There are contraindications because of some of the chemical compositions. Like if people are on certain prescription medications, that there's contraindications and things like that because of the chemical composition of the medicine, of the plant medicine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's right.
Well, that was my rapid fire questions, Andres. I don't know what other topics or questions you had for Araceli.
Well, I think we're past 40 minutes, so I think that's great. We would like to invite you again in the future, hopefully not too far future. We can
Of course.
hopefully sit with you, and we'd love to keep watching your progression. Serving the medicine, serving the world. You're meeting people from all over the world, and doing your part in this healing. And we thank you so much for being here and for everything that you're doing now.
No, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for coming, Araceli.
Thank you, guys.
All right, guys. Well, we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for tuning in. We wish you a beautiful week, and see you once again.
Bye everyone.